We're live, darling.
Not here.
I know I'm live on Facebook. Hi, I'm talking to my husband, Chris, who is,
All right, now you're live.
he is operating the Instagram stream. So, hey, how are you? I hope you're having an awesome day. I am Mel Robbins, and this is Mindset Reset. Today is video 24. What is Mindset Reset? Lucky you. It is a free month-long live training program that my team and I have created and that we are running for the entire month this month. How do you get involved? Well, it's super easy. If you're interested in getting the daily emails, regardless of when you're seeing this video, you could see this video 10 years from now and it will still be live because we are going to make sure that this material is available to you forever because it is changing people's lives around the world. All you do is go to melrobbins.com/mindsetreset. We will send you an email. While the program's live, we'll send you an email every single day with a link to the live training in case you missed it, a recap of everything we discussed, and links to all the other videos in the series in case you missed one, and also to the very cool free downloads that we give you. Can you hand me the Kids from Worry to, yes. So for example, downloads like this, which is a 10-page guide our team put together, tools for parents who have kids that are struggling with anxiety. These are the kinds of tools that you're getting for free. Just go to melrobbins.com/mindsetreset. If you're one of the more than 200,000 people that have signed up for the program, thank you, yay you. I also want to give a huge shout out to all of the people in this program that I met this morning in Toronto while I was signing books. It was so amazing to see you face to face and to hear firsthand that these simple tools and the research and the stories and the advice that we're sharing during Mindset Reset is changing your life. It's having a meaningful impact in your sense of control, in your sense of confidence, in your ability to control what you think about, in the way that you plan your day. And for that, I am truly thrilled. And I'm also grateful that you are sharing your stories and that you are trusting us to help you do the things that you can do in order to change your life for the better. And that's the whole premise of Mindset Reset, that if you change how you think, you will change your life. And today is video 24. Don't freak out if you haven't watched all 24 videos. This is not some sort of master's program. This is not got a test. You're not behind. It's perfect that you're watching this video. In fact, you want to know why it's perfect? I bet that when I'm done explaining today's lesson, which is all around the habit of complaining and how it's become a habit, I guarantee you that by the time that I'm done, you're going to say, holy cow, was she talking just to me? Holy cow, this is exactly the lesson I needed right now. And before we get into the lesson about the habit of complaining, you're going to learn about the 3 types of complaining that people do. You're going to learn why we complain. And you're going to also be given a challenge by me. It's already been on our social media pages today, so many of you have already taken it on. You're going to find that this simple challenge is quite confronting because none of us realize how much we complain. And the reason why we don't realize how much we complain is because complaining has become a habit. Complaining has become part of what we talked about in video 2, which is the default network in your brain. You see, if you missed video 2, we talked about something really important. And if you want to see video 2, just go to Mel Robbins live on YouTube, go to our Facebook page, find video 2, and you will learn all about the amazing science about how we think. And the fact that our brains love to learn patterns, and our brains have what researchers call a default mode network. It's almost like a mesh inside your head that acts as a network, and it filters out all kinds of stuff, and it only lets in certain kinds of information. And believe it or not, when you were little, somebody trained you to think the way that you think right now. You know, if you've got a 6 or an 8 or a 10-year-old in your life and you look at them and you say to yourself, my gosh, you know, it'd be wonderful to be a child again. But there are also things about the way that kids think that you certainly wouldn't want to bring forward into your life when you're 30, 40, 50, 60. Guess what? You have. So there are aspects to the way that your thinking defaults to that don't serve you in your life today. And Mindset Reset is all about not fixing you, you're not broken. It's about fixing the patterns that are in your mind that you don't even realize that you have that no longer serve you. And so if this intrigues you, I invite you to sign up for Mindset Reset, melrobbins.com/mindset reset. We got nothing to sell you. In fact, even if you wanted a journal, we've sold out of them nationwide, so please don't even try to buy one. We don't have a mastermind course. We don't have an online course. We don't have an event that we're trying to jam tickets down your throat to. We got nothing. All we have is a bunch of free information to help you out. How cool is that? So first things first, I want you to write in the comments where you're watching from so we can get a sense of all of the people that are with you on the Mindset Reset journey. There's more than 200,000 of you that are actively engaged in this program. So tell us where you're watching from, and let me jump into the training tonight. So one of the things that's interesting is that we all have a habit of complaining. And I think one of the interesting things about complaining is until you stop the action and you force yourself to take stock of how often you complain, I bet you don't even realize how much you default to either thinking a complaint or expressing one. So why do we complain? Well, one of the reasons why is because it's a habit. You probably grew up in a household where at least one of your parents or one of your relatives or somebody that was of a primary influence just sort of had a half full mentality. That, they didn't see the rainbow when it was raining. They complained about the rain. And that is a habit, to look at the world and to either think or express dissatisfaction. Another reason why we complain is because socially, we make the mistake of thinking that it's easier to bond with people over the things that aren't going right. Oh, can you believe how cold it was today? Oh, wasn't the traffic horrible? Oh, I ate too much at the party last night. And it's in the complaining that we think that it's easier to connect with other people. There's like shared misery in it. That's why it becomes a habit. Now, there are three kinds of complaints that we have as individuals, okay? And I think there's the first one I'm going to talk about is the one that if you have this, you really want to do the work to get deliberate to stop thinking this way. And the first one is when you are a chronic complainer. What does that mean? That basically means that when you think about the way that your mind is defaulted, that you constantly see the world as half empty. You constantly ruminate about what's going wrong. You get agitated and you're dissatisfied and you're resigned in the way. Chris is laughing. My husband Chris is watching this broadcast. Are you laughing because you think you're this way, Chris?
Somebody said, "I love your belt buckle." Are those your little angels?
Oh, yes, these are our kids. These are our kids. Hold on, I'll take this off because my belt is coming out here. This is a belt buckle that I wear everywhere I go when I travel. This is the only way, by the way, to travel with your children. And Soy is now 19, Oak is 13, and Ken is 18. So I have been wearing this for 10 years. It is literally my favorite, I don't know if you say clothing item with a belt, I don't even know. The guy that we bought it from online isn't there anymore, but I bet if you go to Etsy or you Google photo belt, you could probably find another one. And when I have extra time, guess what? We are definitely going to try to create those because I get stopped nonstop about that and about my intent bracelet with my word deliberate on it. So chronic ruminating. If that's you, give me a thumbs up. If you're the kind of person that's starting to realize, holy cow, as I go through Mindset Reset, I'm noticing how often I drift to the negative. I'm noticing how often I see the empty side of things. I notice how often I'm complaining. And that's a really bad habit to get into. Research shows that when you complain, it not only impacts your mood and your health, but it impacts the people that have to listen to it too. So chronic rumination, that's one form of complaining. The second form of complaining is the kind of stuff that we're all guilty of when you're just upset about something, and so you're venting. You're just venting. You're venting about something because you're agitated and you want to get it out. Venting typically comes with an agenda. So you're venting because you're angry about what the teacher did and said to your son or daughter today. You're venting because you're angry about what your boss said or did. And you've got an agenda. And typically the agenda is, I'm right, they're wrong. And it can be useful to vent occasionally if the venting is trying to release something inside of you, but it's not so that you can jam an agenda down that you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right, and you just spin there. And that brings us to the third kind of complaining. And this is the kind that we're all guilty of. And that is that you just are, you're not aware of how much you're doing it. It's not that productive, right? It's not really ruminating, but you just sort of complain about the traffic. You sort of complain about the weather. You sort of had this low grade, unproductive complaining. Now, notice I said the word unproductive. You may recall, if you've been watching the videos, that when I talked about worrying, I also said in video 13 that there's two kinds of worrying. There's the productive kind, and there's the destructive or unproductive kind. So what is a productive form of complaining? Because complaining is the same thing. Complaining is like the opposite coin of worrying. Worrying is about when you are thinking distress about the future and something that you can't control. Complaining is when you are expressing distress about something that you can't control. And there's always two forms when you're doing it in the moment. One form is productive. You're worrying about something, and the worrying itself motivates you to take action to solve the problem you're worrying about. That's productive. Destructive worrying is just ruminating and spinning thoughts about something that's coming up and never doing anything about it. That'll ruin your health. It destroys your mindset. That's what you want to go to war against. Same thing is true with complaining. If you are complaining and you're doing it and it is for the purpose of trying to solve a problem, that's not the kind of complaining that I'm talking about. So for example, if my daughter walks downstairs in the morning, which she often does, and she says, "Oh, I'm so exhausted." And I say, well, if you'd go to bed a little bit earlier, maybe you wouldn't be so tired. So I'm complaining about, I'm backhandedly complaining about the fact that she stayed up too late, but I'm doing it for a productive reason, to try to get her to understand the connection between when she goes to bed and how exhausted she is in the morning. And so, if you complain about your body and it's not making you feel sad, but it makes you mad and it makes you start to eat healthy, that's a productive kind of complaining. If you just sit there and beat yourself up as you catch sight of yourself naked in the mirror, that's not a productive or healthy form of complaining, because you're doing nothing but making yourself wrong. So I'm going to answer a couple questions about this, because here's your challenge. Right now, outside of Boston, it is 8:41 p.m. Yep, I have had a long day. I have been in Toronto. I've had a bunch of airplane delays. We had a standstill on the Mass Pike. I got home. I got to have dinner with Chris and Oakley. Kendall's just pulling in the driveway right now. It's 8:41 at night. And I could have told you the narrative in a very complaining way, couldn't I have? I'm exhausted. It's late. The traffic. Oh, the delays at the airport. The bouncy of the flight. But that's not at all how I'm describing my day, because I'm being deliberate, and I've also started my assignment, which I want you to start right now. So I'm looking at my intent bracelet, which says deliberate. I want you to look at your watch or the clock. What time is it? Now it's 8:42. So for the next 24 hours, I want you to try to go without complaining. There you go. That's your assignment. Try to go 24 hours without complaining. Either complaining to yourself in your mind, or complaining and expressing dissatisfaction out loud. And just notice. Just notice how often you drift to what's wrong. Notice how often you have the urge to complain or to express dissatisfaction or to gripe to somebody. Notice how often you want to vent and how you're pulled to do that. I want to take a couple questions about this because the assignment is simple, but I bet you're going to be like, this is not that simple. Deborah says, what about complaining about things that genuinely take time to resolve? Like, I'm getting over being sick. Let me ask you a question. Does complaining about being sick actually help you get better? It's a fair question. You're allowed to complain if it's productive. If it makes you feel better to go, and saying it is helpful, terrific. If doing that makes you feel even worse, try not to do it. Say things like, boy, I'm on day 3 of this. I must be getting better. Boy, the meds are going to kick in at any moment. You know, when it starts, Chris is looking at me like, what are you talking about?
No, it's just somebody mentioned, do thoughts count? You know,
Yes.
there's outbound, sort of outward complaining, but then there's
Yes.
complaining in your own mind.
Of course, thoughts count, because you know what you complain about the most? Yourself, your body, your intelligence, what you just said, the fact that you didn't go to the gym, the fact that you didn't do what you said you were going to do. The beating yourself up is a form of complaining because you're expressing dissatisfaction for yourself. And the problem with all this is that when you do it habitually, or when you complain as just a default mode and you don't realize how much you're doing it, you're allowing your mind to filter the world a certain way, and you're allowing yourself to live an existence where your own thoughts are poisonous. If you feel like hell and you got the flu and you've just thrown up in the toilet, complain all you want, vent all you want. You just earned that. But at some point, you're going to have to stop feeding the monster and putting poison in your own mind. And you're going to have to teach yourself how to start to find milestones that are positive so that you can become healthier, so that you can change how you think. Pam says, I have a friend who's always complaining. She makes it like the world is against her. You know why she does, Pam? Because she believes it. See, this is what happens when you allow yourself to live with this default mode, is you become oblivious to it. You hear the complaining, Pam, because you're outside of her. When your default mode gets programmed to a point where you complain and you start to believe that the world is out against you, that every day you see that the traffic is bad, that your boss snapped at you, that you can never do anything right, what happens is you start training yourself, because this has become a habit. And I keep doing this because I want you to consider that there is a network of neurons right up here that act like a filter. And if the filter that you have programmed as your default is the world is out to get me, guess what? The only thing that's coming through this filter, the world is out to get me, are things that prove it. And the only thing that you're going to keep thinking in here, because you're trapped believing this right now, is you're going to be trapped thinking it. And so Pam goes on and says, sometimes when I ask her how she's doing, I'm scared of the response I will get. A lot of times I want to follow up my question with, do you have anything good to say? So here's what you can do. It doesn't work to make someone wrong, right? And so what you can do is you can come from concern. And you could say to her, you know, I am really worried about you, because I don't know if you know how often you're complaining about your life, and it really worries me. Are you okay? Do you think you should go talk to somebody? Like, you can literally and should have these kinds of conversations if you care about her, which I'm sure you do. I think the other question that you have to ask yourself, Pam, is what are you getting out of this relationship? Because one of the things that I've noticed in my life is that my relationships, there are those friends that you have for a lifetime. There are friends that you have for a reason, and there are friends that you have for a season. And if she has gotten to a point in her life where, first of all, she doesn't recognize it, and secondly, when you tell her that you're worried about her, she is unwilling or bristles at the idea that you could change it, you might want to consider, well, what are you actually getting out of this relationship, Pam, if, in your words, you're scared of the response that you're going to get? And the best thing that you could do for yourself is to not complain to yourself in your own mind about what she's doing and how it's always negative, but for you to say what's actually there for you. That's either going to shift something for her or it's going to shift something for you. Okay? Awesome question. Stacy, but isn't it healthy to talk to someone about all the things that are troubling you? Yes, Stacy, it is. If you are talking to somebody with the intent that by talking about it, you actually want to do something about it. When you go into a conversation to vent and make somebody wrong and pound it into the ground, and look, I do it too. I do it too. Chris is like, pot, kettle, calling, right there, Mel Robbins. When I get frustrated, what am I doing?
Just look here.
Oh, look here. Okay. I get frustrated too. And so I vent for a bit, I get it out, and then, because it's normal, but you can't let it become a default. And at some point, you got to switch the unloading into unloading with a purpose. And the purpose being, I need to fix this. I need to get over this. I need to change this pattern. I need to stop getting into situations that make me feel this way. What do I do? What am I missing? And one of the things that's interesting about starting to get serious about the way that you think and how you think and what you'll allow yourself to think is it changes everything. It changes not only what your thoughts default to, but it changes and highlights the kind of people that are in your life that don't trigger positive thoughts, that trigger you to complain, that trigger you to feel like you should vent, that trigger you to think things that are negative. So all I want you to do today is I want you, from whatever moment of time it is right now, I want you to try to go 24 hours. You're not going to make it, probably. I want to be honest about this because it's a really hard challenge. I'm leading this training right now, and there have almost been 10 or 12 complaints that have dropped out of my mouth. And as I'm talking, I've had to catch it and say something else. It's so omnipresent for all of us to kind of vent because we bond with each other over venting. And what I want you to do is I want you to give yourself room after these 24 hours to do that, but be very mindful about how you take it from a vent or a complaint from just the destructive kind, which brings you down and makes you feel stuck, and you move it into a more productive one, which is about solving the problem that made you upset in the first place. Yes, Chris. Do we have a question?
Well, one question, one interesting comment.
Yeah.
Just somebody said, I'm going to do this with my 11, like they teed it
11-year-old? Good luck.
And,
oh, is that a complaint? Oops.
Well, because they are always complaining about school, but I think it's actually fun to create sort of a game with other people.
I do too.
See how many times this stuff comes up.
I do too. And look, I shouldn't have reacted like that. I'm only reacting like that because we're in that stage with our 13-year-old where he's gone from like game on for everything that Chris and I do to go away, mom and dad. So I was just sort of envisioning playing this out with Oak. And he does a lot of complaining.
The question was...
And it would be interesting to have him, to see if he could do this challenge because he gets a lot of juice out of complaining. So when he comes home and complains about school, it's a way oftentimes for him to try to get sympathy from me and Chris and to get leniency, like, oh, you poor thing, go play Fortnite for an hour and you'll feel better. And so there's a point to his complaining. And at one point, the complaints were real because he was really struggling based on his learning difference. But now when he complains, I think it's just teen stuff and he's exhausted. But it would be interesting to talk to him about it. And I will in the morning. And I'll let you know whether or not he takes the challenge. I will invite him to take the challenge and I will think positive about it. So thank you for see, I caught myself complaining about the fact that my own son wouldn't do this.
The question was really, do you recommend trying to replace the complaint when you notice it, or do you just notice it?
I think it's up to you. I think it's a great question because what that tells me is that you've been playing around with this idea that you can choose what you think about, and that when you notice that you're thinking that which is negative, you can choose to think this which is positive. If you're noticing that you get triggered by that, you can create anchor thoughts that make you think this. If you practice visualization and visualizing things that are positive as the outcome and also allowing yourself to feel the emotion, that was video number 1. That's the scientific backed way to have visualization as a practice alter the default network in your brain in terms of the brain structure. You visualize plus allow yourself to feel the emotion. So I think it's up to you. All that I'm asking you to do in the next 24 hours is just notice when your thoughts drift to expressing dissatisfaction with yourself, with the situation. If you want to start switching thoughts, you know how to do that. Go for it. If you want to just be in the state for the next 24 hours of just noticing, are you a ruminator? Do you complain more than you think? Like, what can you discover about yourself? Because that in and of itself is transformative. Because again, because it's a habit, because somebody else trained you to do it, because there's so much social bonding around complaining about things, it's become a habit for all of us. If you're complaining and expressing or thinking dissatisfaction and it's motivating and it leads to productive action, fantastic. That's the right kind of complaining because it has an outcome attached to it. If you're ruminating and bringing yourself down and bringing others down, that's the kind of habit that we want you to get present to and we want you to change. All right, I think that's it. You got 24 hours, no complaining, have fun with it. Notice, don't make yourself wrong and don't complain if you notice you're complaining a lot. Tomorrow, we're going to continue with these little thinking tricks. I love these things. We did Assuming Good Intent yesterday on video 23. Today is the power of not complaining. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about my favorite hashtag, which is do it anyway. And how the idea of doing something anyway as a practice will help you beat just about any excuse. It's almost like another form of the 5-second rule. And I just love this thing. I'm going to give you all kinds of really cool examples. Please continue to ask us questions in the comments. Tag us on your social media posts. We love seeing the progress that you're making. We love, love, love hearing your success stories. We love knowing where you're tripping up so that we can address them in the Q&A. As always, thank you for trusting me and trusting our team. If you want to sign up for Mindset Reset, go to melrobbins.com/mindset reset. We will email you all the goodies, and we are not going to put you into some sort of funnel marketing program where suddenly you're getting blasted by us every day. That's just not our jam. Let me think. What else did I want to say? In case nobody else tells you today, I want to be sure to tell you that I love you and I believe in your ability to change your life for the better, because you have the ability to make the small tweaks to how you think and to the little things that you're doing that add up to massive change in your life. And so thank you for being here. It's why I'm here every weekday. It's why I'll be here again tomorrow. And that's it. Have a good night. Now we end it, Chris. You were awesome. My husband on tech and business partner and best friend. There he goes, Chris Robbins. Am I sure I want to end the live?